Welcome, everyone. Today we are going to feature a one of a kind venture, a financial services brand launching its own financial literacy content on radio. My name is Shaina, and together with Andrea, this is MARKETECH APAC Top Story. Home Credit, the international consumer finance provider, was founded in Czech Republic in 1997. Today, its presence spans 9 countries such as in India, Indonesia, and Vietnam. Here in the Philippines, Home Credit was launched in 2013 with the goal to provide financial tools to first-time borrowers. Just recently, the Filipino arm has forayed into a different kind of digital content, a financial literacy radio program.
Today, joining us is the Chief Marketing Officer of Home Credit Philippines to share with us about this refreshing initiative.
Hi, Sheila.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
First of all, congratulations on this brand new initiative on radio. We understand that you did this in partnership with Manila Broadcasting Company as well as Praxis. So, right off the bat, what made you launch this on air financial literacy program?
This is something that was a passion project for us. As an ESG-driven company, we try to highlight and advocate financial literacy. It's kind of an offset from, we are offering credit, but we want for people to be able to manage their finances well and be responsible borrowers, as we are responsible lenders as well. Especially among the informal sector, financial literacy is not very prevalent. In fact, according to studies by global companies, only 25% of Filipinos are financially literate. This is something we don't really learn in school. They have no idea about what it means to have interest, inflation, credit score, or those kinds of items. We really found an opportunity to be able to focus on financial literacy, especially as most of our customers are first-time borrowers. And we think is that since financial literacy or education is not very accessible, for example, on the school level or even out in the media, I think it's perfect for us to be able to use media as a tool to be able to disseminate this using our partnership with the Manila Broadcasting Company, who were gracious enough to give us the airtime, and Praxis also is our agency who helped us also put together the content.
Yes, I understand your aim is really to promote financial literacy for the underserved segment. And what a great mission from the brand. So finance will always be a complex topic, but with the right approach and platform, we can all be knowledgeable. So for this campaign, you're targeting the cohorts of vendors, farmers, fisher folk, public transportation drivers, and also security guards. So why this group and what financial topics have you found are applicable to them?
At Home Credit, we really believe that we should focus on the grassroots level when it comes to financial literacy. The same with financial inclusion, mostly these are the sectors that get neglected or underserved. Definitely, we want to focus on people who are in the class that's very hardworking. In fact, they have to get up super early in the morning, be able to do their jobs, travel somewhere, and that's definitely when they have the time to listen to the radio. And the station such as DZRH, which is on AM, has a huge reach, especially in this sector, and that's why we want to focus on them. It's a 2-minute radio show, very short, but we're hoping that will capture the attention of people when it comes to learn more about saving, managing their finances, accessible financial options, how to actually borrow responsibly, what's the importance of credit score, even about how to grow your money and how to be an entrepreneur. We want to be able to tackle also the digital transformation that's happened in the market. There are so many, unfortunately, scams or fraud out there, especially now that people are more used to using digital financial tools, and we want for people to be able to protect themselves for this. So these are the types of topics that we think is super valuable to our target segment.
All right, so that's a really great initiative you have there, Sheila, and we are glad to know that financial inclusivity is at the forefront of your radio program. Now, still on the topic on radio, some would say that radio is a slowly dying format given the acceleration of digital platforms at this time. We are inquisitive to know, why did you choose such a format to launch the program?
So at Home Credit and through our media studies, we're still seeing that radio listenership is quite high, especially in the remote areas. And although although digital platforms as well as internet penetration has expanded over the last few years, still only 50% of Filipinos are able to access the internet daily. So their main source of news and information as well as entertainment is still the radio, especially in the sector that we mentioned. They also usually start their day very early in the morning, going to the fields, for example, or commuting to work. And that's where DZRH is actually quite popular in the early morning times. And that's where actually we're going to be airing the program. It's going to be before 5 a.m. At least you wake up equipping yourself with knowledge about your finances that can hopefully help you in your everyday.
Absolutely. Radio could reach even the most remote areas here in the Philippines since it's the most widely accessible medium for everyone. Now, since we have already talked about the what and the whys of your financial literacy radio program, how do you measure the success of the program then?
What primarily will be able to get listenership data coming from MDC Radio, and that will help us really measure the reach of the financial advice that we're giving. But another way to expand also this initiative is actually to repurpose the content into other channels, including web, social media, in fact, even podcasts or something similar. And therefore, we'll be able to also measure some interaction and impact. And we're hoping also to be able to source questions and concerns coming from people who are listening and be able to tackle them also as the program unfolds. And therefore, we'll be able to see real engagement with the program.
Yeah, that's really interesting to know, Sheila. Again, it's very refreshing that a brand is really jumping into the radio format because, as we all know, we're now being overcome with podcasts. Podcasts is such a really top format now, but now we're actually going back to the powers of radio. So now I'd like to know, what do you think really is the top pain point of Filipinos when it comes to handling their personal finance? And how do you think home credit play the role in solving these problems?
We weren't really taught how to manage our finances at school. Of course, you learn math, you learn science, but the very basic things about budgeting and saving, as well as how to use credit, is not really something we learn from school. So this is something learned as we go through life. But it's not always very intuitive or common sense. So that's one thing, it's the lack of education. And of course, number two is that we have to accept that it is quite a struggling economy and many people are experiencing low income or not necessarily very steady income. Sometimes also emergencies happen, unexpected things that we were not able to save for. Most people are living on a day-to-day basis and they're not really able to save money or don't understand the principles of saving. So I think that's really the main challenges of the Filipinos when it comes to managing their finances. All these very, very basic lessons. For example, we actually run a quiz inside our home credit app. A couple of 100,000 people who take this quiz. There's one question there. What is the right formula for income when managing your finances? Is it income? You get an income, and then first you minus your expenses, and then what's left is savings? Or is it about setting aside savings first before you go into the expenses? So it's a very confusing question. People will say, no, I have to pay my bills first before I even save. And if there's nothing left, there's nothing to save. But actually the correct answer is you set aside your savings first as if it were an expense, and then the rest you try to manage expenses. It's very hard actually to fulfill. And these are the kinds of things that I wish probably that I had learned when I was at school or university, because I have also encountered in my life challenges, especially when you have a very small income, when you leave school, your first job, it's quite hard to manage.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those. I'm actually learning myself. And as you've mentioned, these are actually very basic. These are fundamental skills like planning and budgeting and setting up an emergency fund. But really, to some people, it's still very hard. And the real question is, how are we really able to do them right? So with regards to the competition, I also want to know your thoughts. So we've been recently seeing the rise of BNPL services and also in-app loading features. So what do you think is something unique about home credit that you would want customers to remember the brand for?
Well, I think one of the things that is quite unique about home credit is the ability to be able to extend credit to first-time borrowers. I think this has been the unique value of home credit because credit is not very easy to access for many of the Filipinos, especially those who don't have income tax return or financial statements or have not been able to open a bank account. And using actually very technology like big data and predictive modeling, we're able to return a decision on whether we can extend you a loan or an installment under a minute. And this is like, still unmatched among the competition. And as you continue to transact with home credit, we actually help you build your credit score. The people who might want to loan in the future bigger amounts, like for example, they might want to start investing in a house or a car, but they've never had a credit history before, it will be hard for them. But if you have already built a credit history with home credit and you are actually good, for example, on paying your debts or your installments on time, then definitely it will be more favorable for you as you try to seek bigger goals or for other ambitions.
All right. So thank you for sharing with us the unique features you have. Now, moving forward to the next question, since you have launched this financial literacy program, we know that there are a lot of expert financial tips, which include delaying gratification and living by your own means. However, some would say BNPL services somehow do conflict with these expert tips. What are your thoughts about this?
Of course, there's a question like, should we even go into loans or debt if we want to be responsible in terms of our finances? But I think that credit is not necessarily a negative word as long as you know how to manage credit properly. For example, if you want to set up a business or improve your health, or buy a house, buy a car for your family, it's probably not possible really to do this all via cash or not taking any kind of credit. So I think credit is there to enable you to stretch your budget, enable you to improve your life, but we just need to learn how to manage it responsibly. So I think there's nothing wrong with buy now, pay later, as long as you don't overextend yourself and go into something that you cannot pay for. What we're trying to do with this program is to teach those kinds of principles. We also see actually that even among our home credit borrowers, the ones that have been with us for a long time really already know how to manage their situation and finances.
Yeah, I think it's really just being able to strategically offer these flexible payment options and let consumers know how to be able to get the most benefit from them. So you've been sharing a lot of great insights, Sheila, and at this point, we've learned so much, not just about the program, but also the many more things that we can do to promote financial inclusion. So what's next for home credit in terms of these financial education campaigns? I know you've mentioned a little bit about this, extending the radio program to different formats. So maybe you could share with us a little bit more about that.
Well, soon we'll be launching a microsite. Well, our financial advocacy program is called Wise at Home or Be Wise at Home. And we'll be launching a microsite that talks about more financial advice, concerns. We'll have some great quizzes, some great content and videos so people can read up and learn more about how to manage their finances. We are also doing a couple of partnerships as well to be able to extend financial literacy, for example, in schools, barangays. So these are all the exciting things that we're coming up with. We're quite happy the economy and the situation is kind of now normalizing because pre-pandemic, we were actually going barangay to barangay to be able to do the financial education. During the pandemic, we transformed that into digital initiatives. And I think now is the time to do the best of both worlds. One is do it digitally, do it via radio, and also on ground. I think that's what's coming up next in terms of our Wise at Home program.
All right, so definitely a lot of exciting things to look forward to. So you're not just launching a radio program, but you also have taken steps to extend help, face to face. Now, as we come to the end of this conversation, we'd like to know, as a marketing leader, what advice can you give for brands who are looking into educational content to engage their audience?
In terms of educational content, I think we have to find a theme or a message that is core to the business. And that's why financial advocacy and financial education works for us in terms of branded content because it benefits us both. We are creating responsible borrowers and we also are able to show that we are responsible lenders. Another thing also is that the content, because people are consuming content on a daily basis, it's something integral in their lives. And this is a way for us to be able to establish a long-lasting relationship with our customers. As opposed to just simply selling and selling and selling things all the time, we actually want to be part of and a useful part of our customers' lives, in which case content, I think, is something that can definitely bridge this gap between us and the customers in terms of having life lessons as well.
Thank you so much, Sheila, for sharing with us about the program as well as your industry insights.
Thank you so much, Shayna and Andrea, for inviting me. And I hope that your listeners and viewers were able to learn something from me and Home Credit.
So there you have it, listeners, our top story. If you have an interesting story to share in the areas of marketing, tech, platforms, and SMEs, we'd also like to hear from you. You may reach us at editorial@marketech-apac.com.
Also, be part of our growing community and follow us on our social media channels. This has been China with Andrea, and we'll see you in the next episode.